Welcome everyone to Tarot Journeys with Guy. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's well out there in the wide world. Wow, what a crazy time, what a crazy world we live in. I hope things are smooth for people in the turbulence, especially if you're living in the United States. But it's happening everywhere. I don't know, I guess I've been taking a bit of a break. I have been interacting with my everyday world a lot more, I guess is a good way to put it. Exactly kind of how the readings have been saying. But it's also like a preparation for like the next steps, right? And yeah, it's been kind of fun. The weather in Calgary, where I live, is been amazing. It's just been so beautiful. And there's been so many different little events that going on in the city, and it's really cool. Me interacting with the everyday world, though, I realized like how many people here, especially I guess, are, well, there is an awakening happening, but many people don't see through a lot of the fog that's been projected onto them, let's say, okay? And I guess including myself, right? It's really about breaking through that fog and being able to continue to move forward, to continue to better ourselves in this whole process. And that to me is really what the awakening. So much going on, I guess, with the world, you know, stuff in the States. There's been some good news with some of the Trump stuff and what's his name? Ken Paxton, the Attorney General for Texas. He was indicted and there was an impeachment thing and all of that was cleared, and that's kind of big news. And yeah, it's just these guys have been forward motions, like these guys, yeah, it's just been forward motion, right? As things come out with Biden, stuff comes out with Trump, and back and forth and the tit for tat. And the hope is that people are seeing like what is going on with these people and how corrupt everything is. Oh man, yeah, and it's just more of the same. I like in Europe, in the UK, you're really seeing people push back on the agenda. Europe is really trying to clamp down. There's this push for more censorship and the digital ID and this and that, right? And the fear of the war, right? Like they keep pushing the war thing and more of the same, I guess is kind of what it really pertains to, right? Yeah, moving out of the Mercury retrograde and then moving towards the equinox. Yeah, it's this pocket of time that we're sort of engaging where it really is helping us release a lot of things that did come up in the Mercury retrograde, and then moving into the equinox on the 23rd, 22nd of September. I can't remember exactly which date it is right now, but that's the release. That's moving into the period of time where, yeah, it's the death period. It's the period of release, okay? And so all of those little moments in the, like, especially in the solar year, help us in that release process and in the rebirth, where we can reinitialize our energy, right? And that's kind of what we're going through, and that's what we're probably going to see in the world, right? And that's what I was kind of alluding to before, was the pushback, and that's really what's sort of helping in this process of exposing them. And so as they get more and more exposed, these deep state bad actors, things start to make sense. Whereas before, a lot of this stuff none of what was going on in the world never made sense. And that's kind of like one of the things to really look for, is like what they present and what they're projecting, anything on the mainstream. If it's not making sense, there's probably a reason for it. It's part of that psyop. It's part of their pushing this agenda. So onward, the the scenario continues to move forward, and then here we are. Okay, so let's do a little read. Let's do a little check-in, see what comes up, see what we need to be prepared for, kind of a little bit of the usual, and then see if anything comes up, we'll read into it. But let's just keep it kind of broad and see what we need to hear for right now. Okay. The High Priestess reversed. So the High Priestess, in the right way up, she usually represents clear connection between heaven and earth. And she's well seated within her true nature, her true self, and the knowing that is there. So it is very stable and very silent, okay? The emotional body and the mental body, they're in balance. Her spiritual and material worlds are in balance. So when she seeks this through silence. This is another thing, like this idea of like being able to listen to the intuition. Okay, so when it's reversed, it really kind of represents like emotional upheaval and not being stable and not being silent and stirring the pot, like how I like to kind of say, right? And so that's kind of what they're doing right now. They're trying to really stir the pot. The deep state, these guys that are still kind of there, they're still operating, and the push is on, okay? They don't have total control of the apparatus that they had before, like the social media and the media, mainstream media, like cable news and newspapers and all of that kind of, like the old system, like it's been broken apart. And so what they're trying to do is they're stirring up the pot and creating a lot of confusion, right? And what they want people to do is sort of move towards what is presented as like a new situation, new situations, right? It's this Hegelian dialectic that is being sort of presented, the problem, reaction, solution, let's say. So where they place people in all three areas. So they have people in the scripted bad guy scenario, scripted good guy scenario, and the scripted solution to the conflict, okay? And we're gonna see stuff like this play out, and people are inevitably gonna get tricked by some of it not. Like, I mean, this is kind of the thing, right? Some of the stuff, like people, if you've been paying attention, a lot of information has been coming up about how they've been paying influencers on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, like TikTok influencers around COVID, okay? And paying these people to push the COVID narrative. Now, a lot of these people, like, especially like from the 2020s, they're not here on the earth plane anymore. They've passed on. Some of them have died, unfortunately, okay? Right? Like, and this is what we were seeing, like a crazy amount of people have gotten really sick or have passed, okay? But they're still doing this. And so when like one of the things that they're trying to push is a new booster, a new coat for a new variant, but a lot of people are wise to this, that actually what they are doing is creating the illness. They're creating that virus, right? So, or the scenario for it. And people are kind of getting it, okay? But that they're still hooking a lot of people. Like I was saying, like going out in the everyday world in Canada, and even though people are waking up to this, I mean, Canada has been so deep state controlled for so long that a lot of people are not even aware how manipulated they are in their thinking, like how brainwashed we are. It's hard to really work through, honestly. Like, and this is going on all over the planet. This is a thing in the planet. I mean, there's certain areas where there's more people that are awakened, more patriot-minded, more freedom-minded, I guess is a good way to put it, than others. But like, as far as like the globe goes, yeah. I mean, there is this threshold number of people that need to be reached or have had needed to be reached. And I think we have hit that point. That's why all this information is definitely coming out. That's always kind of been part of the mission statement. It's also kind of a known psychological idea, and also part of revolutionary theory and part of counterinsurgency doctrine in this, that you need a certain percentage of the population to sort of see what you're presenting, or they need to all be sort of in a direct, like they need to be moving in the same direction in order for the majority of people to be swayed. Okay. And so that's kind of what's going on. It's like this battle for that sphere where the social discourse, like those people have kind of reign over that social discourse. Yeah, and they're just like throwing more stuff, right? And like this idea that the world is becoming multipolar, like geopolitically, and that there's this BRICS arrangement versus the Western world. And see, that's the thing. They're trying to destroy and take apart the legal and social apparatus. I keep calling it an apparatus, but the establishment, everything that was built around that, where it says that the people are sort of in charge of the government and how that works, right? That's what they're sort of taking apart. And yeah, they're kind of tricking us in taking part in it. We volunteering for our own demise, right? And that's something that people have to sort of wake up to. Even though this is taking place, like our nation states, like just because Canada is doing this, we are no longer of that government. Like the deep state has taken over. That's the nature of the coup. So when NATO goes out and the United States, like I hear a lot of people online, like there's certain people that I listen to, and they like, especially from the States, and it's a hard kind of pill as part of the red pill. Part of the pill to swallow is that even though you might feel patriotic, like these actions that are taking place in the Ukraine, things like this isn't us, and we shouldn't take responsibility for it. We need to call out these bad actors that are implementing this, because they're doing it above our heads, and they're doing it in all of these countries. Okay, and this is what's going on, and it's part of reclaiming your rights as a citizen, right? As a person, as the people. Okay, and like that's a big thing. That's something that people have to realize. Like, I don't feel like the military is entirely in control. I don't feel that. That's not how I'm perceiving this. I feel like elements might be, but I think that there's elements within even the like US military, and that's the defense infrastructure, which is a big part of that deep state. That's where they're battling, right? And so, but there's a part of it in that, like the patriot part, that wants the people to sort of take charge again. That's lawful. That's according to the rule of law and the Constitution and all that. And that's where we need to be sort of focused, but realizing that they have co-opted it. They're trying to destroy it. And like same like in Canada, and it's the same in the UK, same in Australia, same in parts of Europe, especially in Europe. Oh my God. National sovereignty has been totally dissolved in some ways, where the EU dictates above people's heads without votes, right? These representatives a lot of the time aren't voted in. And that's something that people, they got to address. They got to keep talking about it, because that's what they're doing, okay? It is this massive cleansing process. I see the star as a cleanse, right? Because she's the part of the process. This is the initiate. She's been initiated. She no longer wears the false robes of identity, like in the sense of like false identity. She's bearing her true self, okay? And that it really enables her to connect with the higher and the lower, and to be sort of that bridge, right? And like, that's where we start to excel. That's where we start to realize our full nature, our dreams, which is partly what the star represents, right? So it's like this whole process, what we're seeing is part of what in truth spiritually needs to happen and what we're set up to take part in and to sort of bear witness to, okay? A lot of the craziness we need to walk away from it and seek like a new relationship with it. Like that's kind of what I'm saying about the patriotism and stuff. Like we need to see things clearly and with reality, and I think that's important. Okay. Yeah, and the thing is the COVID, right? They're not done with it for some reason. I mean, for some reason, I know exactly why they're not done with it, but it's not working, right? And see, and that's the thing. It's like the next kind of attack or the next thing is on the health of the people, of the force, their life force. And it's just this confusion around it, right? And so it's like hooking people through that fear. So there's like a certain segment of society globally that are going to be hooked by it, already are. They almost have to kind of continue to go through with it, right? And that's another big thing. Yeah, and just like going after people that speak out against the narrative. We've already seen it. We're seeing it right now. We're seeing certain people like what's the guy's name? Russell. I remember him from that movie, Get Him to the Greek, I guess. That's the thing I remember. And I always remember him being very leftist, okay? And very progressive. And then oddly enough, he switched. And that's in the same thing, we witnessed this with all of these people, okay? And so like right now they're going after him, in the same breath as Laura Baba, I guess, this thing with her in the movie theater. Russell Brand, that's his name. But the thing is, what we're witnessing is like Russell Brand, he flipped sides. So what happened? And this is kind of what we were paying attention to before. There was this thing of, these people getting caught really early around the Epstein stuff and the trafficking and all of the hideous stuff that's there. And then under the surface and part of that shadow war is these people making deals, okay? And then being placed, right? And so I wonder if he's one of those people, right? And like, that's that part of that Hegelian trip, okay? But I don't know, we're seeing it. We're already seeing it. The InfoWars guy, and I mean, the people getting imprisoned for J6, crazy. Like, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy, okay? But yet there's people in that mix that are like, they're placed agents, okay? But it's like controlled opposition and also. So, and that's part of that fog, right? It's like, who do we trust and who do we don't, right? These people that are in control, these people that we have elected, they're dictators. And we need to wake up to that. We need to sort of recognize that. The more people can talk and the social discourse can flow freely, that is one of the major safeguards, right? So that's why you're seeing in the States, the New Mexican governor going after the guns, and the prosecutor for Trump going after his First Amendment rights and trying to gag order him, right? And like censoring and silencing people. That's part of it. Yeah, I think what we're witnessing in the States especially, but I think what we're going to start to see is like the formation of like new political parties. We're already seeing it in Europe. Saw it in the Netherlands. Where else was it? Sweden? There was a big switch over, but I think in the States you might see formation of a new party of some sort. But yeah, new party lines, that's kind of what that Two of Cups is kind of sort of saying too. But both sides forming new lines, right? New alliances, new situations. They're sort of trying to position this thing where it's going to be, like I was saying, a multipolar world. The BRICS nations versus the Western nations, that kind of thing, right? But it's not going to per se, it's not going to work, right? Because it's too much part of that script, okay? Now, if you look at the BRICS situation, yeah, and I don't care what people say online about China. China is not good. There's nothing good about that place, about the government. People, yes. Government, no. And that's how we have to sort of see these things. What else? What's next? What's next? What's more? Let's see. One more. Let's do one more. See what else comes out. What do we need to hear? What's gonna help us? Yeah, they're going to try to push us into the next money system. This is, I think, a thing that's going to happen. It's going to start. We're going to start to see, but we're also on the positive end. Like, see, it's funny. Like Trump, if you pay attention to what Trump has been saying in his rallies and all of these interviews and stuff, he's really talking about when I get into power, what's going to happen in the next phase, what's right, and that's kind of what this Three of Wands is really about. It's like we are probably going to get word positively, because that's what I asked. It's like, what do we need to hear? What's going to help us, right? Positively, like a 3-year, there's going to be a new plan. There's going to be something that sort of like is very encouraging. There might be actually within the next couple of weeks, maybe some kind of peace arrangement with Ukraine and Russia. And that's kind of what we've been seeing with these guys, like what these deep state bad actors have been doing is in these areas, that's where they want to implement their smart cities and their new plan agenda cities, right? But there's something else that's coming up. But we might see some kind of peace agreement. But also from a positive end, there might be some kind of like 3-year or some kind of window out. We start to sort of see clear. There's going to be some huge reports about illnesses. They're going to try to get us on all fronts, right? But simultaneously, there's also people out there trying to push the other part of it, the awakening part of it, and trying to get people sort of like aligned with the notion that these people that have been in place are ruining everything, that they're the ones that are making us sick. Maybe there will be some kind of like wide-scale research report or something around mental health, how mentally ill people are and how medicated they are. I swear, like about 90% of the people I interact with and or in the world, in Canada, like in Calgary, are either fully medicated or recovering from being medicated. I'm not joking. It's so much. It's really hard to work through, but yet that is something that has to kind of come out in the open, right? But also the lies around the COVID, lies about how it came out. You see, they can't withhold the information. It's just like, it's like a steamroll, and we just have to kind of sort of be ready to sort of take part where we need to. Money. They've always gotten us with money too. That's another thing with the money thing. Freaking out the older people with their retirement funds and stuff like that. Your retirement funds, whatever they're called, I don't even know what they're called in different places. They've been used to fund all of this decrepit crap that we're sort of unleashing and looking at. All of it. That's what they are. They're trust funds. They're put into, oh man, it's insidious what these people have been doing. In fact, to the same point, like what some of the information that's come out is that a lot of the research around the vaccine, the people funded it it was funded through taxpayers. Who made the money? The pharmaceutical companies, the deep state bad actors. That's what's happening. So people are like fearful. There's a reason why you're fearful. Sorry, you cannot be oblivious to this stuff anymore. We have to find other areas to put our money that is positive, constructive around well-being rather than sucking the life force out of us. That's a big thing, right? So it's like being wise of where you're investing your money. There might be some really good opportunities that come up, actually. I mean, that's part of this whole switching sides they want, and that's how they do it, right? So it's like paying attention, tracing the money, tracing where your money is going. That's really helpful. You can be really helpful to the whole cause by, being conscious of where you're spending your money. Now, don't spend your money on these guys, right? That's a big part of it, right? But I don't want to freak people out because the whole system is so intertwined, and we're not at fault. And everything, and not to take rash steps. Like, don't freak out. Like, please do not freak out. There's no need to freak out. In fact, we should be really positive. This is something that we've wanted for a very long time, right? And it's like seeking new infrastructures. They're presenting themselves though too, right? And it's a little bit tricky. If we don't talk to one another, how do we know about these things? Figuring out what other people do, but it's not this thing of like going along with the herd anymore. Yeah, working and money and life is such a strange trip, man. I'm not sure. It's never been really easy for me. It's always been difficult. I've always worked really hard. Maybe not smartly. I don't know. I laugh because I know that's true. That's how you learn how to be more effective. But see, I've always been driven by my life purpose and that calling and listening to that calling. And I think a lot of us people that come and join me on these readings and stuff, that's how we feel, right? And that's where our opportunities lie. And we can't just think in small steps. That's like, especially with life path and career and money and things like this, it's like, I'm always kind of putting myself in this position, like whenever the fear of money or the worry of money comes up, or, or I think about money, it's like I always attempt to put my mind in the place of, okay, like, what are you going to do with the money? That's a big thing. Another thing too is like being responsible with the money that is being made or you have or whatever, right? It's like, it's just energy, right? And that's kind of a big lesson, I guess, that many of us are kind of being sort of put through. Yeah, and like walking away from things that no longer serve us, like soul-sucking jobs, man. No, walk away from them. It is time. It's time. The universe supports your efforts, and when you go to walk through that door and close it, another door will open. It always is that way. I know it's not easy. Just to say it makes it sound easier than it is, but it's possible. I mean, this is how my life is operated. And I don't think it's easy. I think every step of the way can also be very difficult. It can be easy. It really can be as well, right? And I think that's kind of a thing. We have to sort of see that we are not here to fulfill their machinations, these deep state, dark side, bad actors. We are here to fulfill that spiritual impulse that resides within humanity, to keep humanity growing and keep humanity moving in a direction. I think that's it for now. That was pretty awesome. Pay attention to what's going on. Take some of these cards that I've talked about and maybe like look them up, like especially if it's hitting certain points in your life. Look them up to find more affirmation, right? It's part of that self-learning. And some of this stuff will become clear because I know it's a bit tricky. It's a bit challenging, okay? So I hope you have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are. Take care, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.